Welcome back to One on One with Nate and Aziz. I know it's been a little while, but we're back. Nate, how you doing, man?
I'm doing good, Z. How you been doing, man?
I've been doing all right. The football season just started, and it's football, but I'm really ready for some basketball.
Yeah, you taking a knee on the football season?
I'm gonna take a knee. I don't buy Papa John's pizza anymore.
I have thrown out all my... Bro, I had so many coupons. It was crazy. And even after that happened, they sent me like 50 more coupons.
Of course.
It was tempting.
They know where their business is at.
But,
anyway.
yeah, like you said, it's been getting a little stale around here these days. We need some hot NBA news on the mix.
So, not quite NBA news, because, there's we could talk about LeBron all day, and that's what ESPN usually does. But there's been a little bit of college basketball, some pre-amateur athleticism going on. So, first tournament I kind of want to talk about is the Kentucky one, and I got to be honest, I didn't really see much of it.
You weren't feeling that? Hey, I tried to, same like you, I tried to watch the highlights and just wasn't really, wasn't generating too much excitement for me. Yeah. It's the typical, Kentucky show.
Right. They've got this new thing called ESPN Plus, and yeah, it's not happening.
And it's not happening for you?
Yeah,
No.
But thankfully we've got YouTube in the highlights. So, Kentucky, as always, has their large amount of top recruits, which is a little surprising this year, and we'll get into it later, because they didn't really get the elite recruits like they did this year or past years. But they still got some serviceable guys. You've got Emmanuel Quickly, Quade Green, Keldon Johnson, and E.J. Montgomery, who we had the pleasure of watching at Wheeler High School, which is down the road from us. And I think Kentucky just kind of has
they're, again, competitive as always, but I think this year their team is going to struggle a lot towards the end of the season. Obviously at the beginning they're just going to have a pretty steep learning curve, but I don't expect that to taper out too much at the end of the season. For one, we see guys coming back from last year who don't really, to me, show like the leadership potential. The PJ Washingtons, the
Nick Richards.
Exactly. Those guys could stagnate, and I see that maybe happening to the whole team. I think one thing that we were, talking about the other day is how Kentucky somewhat reflects, that I'd say the trendy approach to basketball these days, and the way that these players are putting themselves out there on the court.
Yeah.
That to me is definitely kind of glaring from the jump and watching some of those highlights. Did you have any thoughts on that?
Yeah, I think, and we'll kind of get into this a little later, but there's just a certain mindset that these recruits, not all of them, because we don't want to generalize, but a large majority or a handful of them have a mindset coming in, and it doesn't necessarily translate. There's one thing to dominate at the high school level, but the higher the levels get of basketball and the tougher the competition is, the more you have to adjust, and a mindset can only take you so far. You can think you're athletic, but to be athletic is a whole nother thing, and you kind of get a reality check. But it's a little sad, because had they adjust their mindset going in, maybe they would better adapt to it. But that's getting farther into it.
Well, let me ask you this, because it somewhat reminds me of some of the criticism we've heard in regards to like the AAU game, and how, it's kind of tailoring these players or enabling these players to be somewhat more, I don't want to say lackadaisical, because I don't think these guys are being more just all over the place, but, I think there's somewhat of that ego, that, I don't know the right way to put it. A lot of these players are like friends. They're not creating really strong competitive environments like I'm used to seeing.
They're more privileged.
Right. Exactly.
And they feel like things are deserved.
With the social media age, for example, these kids are basically becoming somewhat of, media celebrity, internet celebrities at 15 years old. And they're taking that approach to the game a little bit differently, as if they're already a professional athlete.
It's crazy because the kind of transition was still on the same topic, but in a different realm. I think about Zion and Duke, and even prior to Duke, like, think of how many people are making money off of him, off of his footage on YouTube for the amazing athleticism and dunks he was showing in high school. And like I said, this is a pre-amateur athlete. He's not getting any of this money. Like, I doubt the school's getting, but he's generating so much revenue as a 15, 16-year-old kid. And it's like, how it's no longer just basketball anymore. Like, you're making these kids. Look at LeBron James' son. Like,
you exactly. I mean, I think LeBron James is basically a case study. Like, you could put him as a college course in terms of reviewing the human, how he's developed just as an individual, from going from being, like you said, a money-making, generating machine at the age of 14, 15 years old, being called, the next legend, to being brought all the way to where he's at now in his career. But, without deviating too far, I think really the concern is that these players are taking more account into themselves individually than they are the game of basketball. And that's kind of a dangerous, mentality to have if you're trying to make it all the way to the next level. It's really got to be about the game first.
Right. There's a lack of work-life balance.
Right. Hey, that's a good way of putting it. That's your job, man. And if you're out there taking advantage of the perks of it all versus, really focusing on that, taking it to the next level.
I think,
it's going to kick you.
You're hitting it on the nail on the head. It's the social media era has just changed the dynamic of so many things. And I just thought of this analogy, but in a sense, these young kids in their basketball, it's sort of like, your mixtape and SoundCloud rappers. Like, the market is so oversaturated, which with basketball, it's always been like that. The statistics. You've got a 0.3 chance of making, to the NBA. Right. But because of social media and, how accessible it is for you to make a highlight page or whatever it is, all these kids have these unrealistic expectations. Which reminds me of a story, I think it was from a year or two ago, where a school in California asked Steph Curry to come out and speak to them. And the principal, whoever it was, wanted him to give him, some words of encouragement. No. Sorry, that's the story, but that's not how exactly it went. Somebody in the school wanted Steph Curry to come and talk to them. But the principal was like, no, I don't want you to come here because I don't want you to give these kids unrealistic expectations. The school is somewhere in the hood, and it's like, yes, you want to encourage these kids, but a lot of these kids aren't going to be athletes. They're, like I said, the statistics. You're just not going to be athletes, so you should look and pursue something other fields.
More,
right?
Yeah.
That's one of the things I always think about. No, I didn't have the talent to be an NBA player. I'm a little short, but I like to think I, could.
Hey, you got some bounce, man.
Right.
Don't sleep on yourself.
A little bit. But from a track standpoint, I felt like maybe not Olympics, but I could have ran track professionally. With anything, if you're semi-athletic, if you put in the time and the hours,
right,
you could compete at some level.
Right.
So I felt like I could have done that, but the older I got, just not getting the looks I felt I deserved outside of high school, the opportunities just weren't there. And when I looked at myself and where my college career started with transferring for the sake of running, the amount of effort that I would have had to put in to pursue just running at the collegiate level didn't seem like it to me. And so for me, although I felt I had this athletic ability, it was like, okay, well, I also can succeed in other areas because, I feel like I'm smart, I do my classes or whatever. Right. So it's like with everybody trying so hard to succeed in athletics, maybe there's something more open on the business side or, but everybody.
Well, think about it again, because you think about a lot of these kids who, in many ways, they're providing unrealistic expectations to everyone around them. You know, their families are thinking, I'm about to score off this kid. Like, you know, their coaches are encouraging them because they want to say they coach the next whatever. You know, you do have to have the right mentors in place to say, hey, look, this isn't the end all be all. There's plenty of options. But also you have to look, we know a few people like this. If you're going to put everything you have into something, make sure it's something, and this is just my piece of advice, because I don't want to kill anyone's dreams out there. Do whatever you want to pursue. But there's always something that will tell you, this is what I'm capable of. You have some component in your brain that will tell you, I can do this. Yes. It's beyond even a sense of realism. It's a sense of like acceptance, because I know realistically I could like build a computer, right? But do I accept that I have what it takes to be dedicated to that, to be persistent, to be the
all
amount
of time and effort that goes into completing a task.
Right. You know, when it comes to the game of basketball, you got to have a lot of different areas to look at. You can't just, like you said, you can't just hear a speech from Steph Curry. You can't just, see your family struggling and think this is my only source of motivation. Like you need it all. You need all that to make it to the next level, I think. But a lot of players get there in other ways. Some players are just lucky, or you're just super talented. You don't need any motivation.
That's always a part of it.
Yeah.
So as far as the mentor, so this is one thing I've always wondered. Well, let me ask you this question. Mm-hmm. How do you think they should be coaching these kids? Because I saw the story on ESPN once, and it was more pertaining to football, but I think it's a good point. So there's kind of really two approaches to coaching. You can treat your athlete, not necessarily saying they don't, but you can kind of treat them with respect, like you're on the same level. Like,
right.
Say for the NFL or any professional sport, the coach is probably 40 something and the athlete's 20, but at that point they're both men. Mm-hmm. Maybe different stage of life, they're both men. Mm-hmm. So he can come to his athletes and speak to them as a man, like, hey, this is what I need you to do. You've been through this. You've been doing this. This is what, you know what you need to do.
Right.
Which I feel like is probably like a Popovich is what he probably communicates. Or you have the other approach of it where, you just berate the player, where it's like, oh, you're no good. You're never going to be able to compete with this and that, which some people need that kind of motivation, but I feel like it's a backwards tactic. Like, one of the things I always think about is the two most common ways to motivate people are with fear and guilt. Now, are they the most effective? I don't believe so. Mm-hmm. But common, like if somebody fears, I'm not going to be in the league. Yeah. I'm not going to make my, coaches happy. That might motivate them, or they might feel like, okay, I'm guilty because I feel like I'm not giving it all to my teammates. Mm-hmm. They may be motivated, but I feel like that only lasts for so long. So which do you think? Because I feel like these kids are probably getting the bad side of one of those two. So what do you think these coaches should be doing?
Dude, so that's a great question, because it is one of those kind of age-old sentiments of tough love that I personally don't agree with. I think motivation is, like you said, if it's something sustainable, it's got to be intrinsic. It's got to be your own, what you own. Right. It's not how other people are influencing you. And so that happens with good feelings, not bad. We naturally want to feel like rewarded, or like we're accomplishing our goals and all that shit. So if I know what my end game is and what my goal is, I need to find a way to reward myself, have those little steps along the way. Obviously you want to make your coaches happy, you want to make everybody happy, but to stay motivated, it starts with you, I think. And so these coaches have to me, your coach is basically your teammate. He should be saying, "Look, we're all playing a role in this. I'm the coach. I'm the strategist. Y'all are the the not executioners.
Right.
Y'all execute our strategy.
Your pieces.
And nothing happens without. I can't execute strategy without y'all. You can't do it without me. So let's figure out how to do that together. I've never understood how you can tell somebody to go win a basketball game for you. Like, that's not that will never work.
Yeah.
And these kids, I think, are naive enough to believe that, they're kind of being somewhat taught that that's okay.
Yeah, it's definitely what's the nurture versus nature.
Exactly. And there's a repetitive cycle of that youth versus elder mentality where a lot of kids just see like they have to respect the words of their elders, and if they're being demeaned, then they're just gonna go along with it.
Yeah, it's what they know.
Exactly. So, I've never been a fan of that.
Yeah, I agree. Definitely, I think the coaches, it really starts with the coaches. They're not laying the foundation for these young men to understand really the game of basketball. They want them to win, which is a big part of the culture. But there's so much more life lessons,
right? Absolutely,
in sports in general than just winning. And I don't feel like these kids are learning that. I mean, from us playing at the gym with a lot of the high school kids, they play for themselves. They're not trying to pass the ball. They don't. All they feel like is, if I'm scoring on my man, and it's got to be like a fancy score. Like if it's a nice little turnaround or fancy layup, then I'm doing my part. But there's so much more to basketball than that. Rebounding, passing, defense. I don't have to tell you, but I just feel like whenever I see these kids play, that's the only thing on their mind is like, how many points did I score and how did I score?
Exactly. Them? Yeah, it's look, man, we all have those times or whatever. Everyone should have something to prove when they're playing ball, I think. But it should never be about proving that you're the shit. Like, you can prove you're the best player, show it through your play. Right. Don't try to isolate everybody else so that you look good. That's really the problem. But we kind of talked about this as it correlates to the NBA. What I'm happy to see, at least for this next wave of players that are transitioning and taking over the trends of the league, is that there's still an emphasis on being a dynamic player, like having the basically the holy trinity, pass, shoot, and then whatever your third specialty is. Right. So, that's at least encouraging that the fundamentals of the game are still there. It's just the maturity of these kids, I think, is what is making it harder for them to be successful once they get to the NBA. Because a lot of them are still just getting through on their talent.
Yeah.
Now, one thing I will mention, and we talked about this in one of our previous shows about the draft, is that, and my fiance actually mentioned this while we were watching this year's draft together. She felt like there were a lot of very high character, high quality individuals in this draft, and that the way that they carried themselves and kind of talked about the game was something to admire.
Yeah, definitely.
And so, as much as we kind of are seeing that maybe with this new generation or the high school kids these days, there's still a handful of guys, I think, that are making it to that next level because they have all that other stuff.
And, like I say, back to statistics, those guys are somewhat the outliers.
Yeah. Exactly.
But that's a good, I don't want to call them role models because most of the kids are all the same age. But, that's like a good set point. Like, if you're looking at a guy like Wendell Carter or, Devin Booker, just, Jalen Brunson, just got thrown names out there. Yeah. But you're looking at guys like those and how they carry themselves from high school to college to being NBA players. Now, it is a good thing to reflect on, but we're not always, guys like Wendell Carter aren't always, the flashy, big name guys that you're going to get. But
Right.
they're gonna be productive, and those are good places to look.
Now let me ask you this. This is just a quick, because I don't want to take us too far here, but I mean, do you think there's any guys in the league right now that kind of they embody that that mindset as a professional successful player?
I mean, our guy Isaiah Briscoe just signed with the Magic.
See, but I wouldn't even he's not getting enough burn to really disappoint.
Yeah. That is a good question. I think there's no one I could think of off the top of my head. You would think they'd probably be on a dysfunctional team like Sacramento.
Okay. Now, what about a guy like, and I like the dude a lot. He's about to have a nice little combo with LeBron, but we talk about Mike Beasley as like a kind of
Lance.
Lance, exactly.
But the thing with Lance is Lance, he does pass.
Yeah.
But like you said, like we're talking about, he has a specific style of game.
And if you take away that element of his game, is he still a successful player?
I don't think so. He's not as effective as he can be.
Right.
But
because he almost intrinsically motivates himself to be like annoying as fuck.
Right. That's how like you said, that's how he gets up for the games. That's what works for him.
Yeah.
But you have to be a specific type of player. But at the base of it, Lance Stevenson is still an incredibly talented player. Now, is he a superstar? No, but he's an NBA player, and he's a proven NBA player. But that's kind of...
He's found his way to kind of teeter that fine line.
Yes.
To where teams still want to utilize what he's capable of, but they're always keeping an eye on what he's capable of. And for a lot of guys, that will never work. You won't have any longevity, at least. They'll get chances.
Yes.
But nobody can ever bank on you because your game is overshadowed by you.
Right.
And that's never a good thing.
That makes, not to correlate the two, but that reminds me of like my whole Kobe theory, and one of the reasons I don't like Kobe, even though it has nothing to do with him.
Oh, y'all should have seen my face. I winded up my backhand for you, Kobe.
It was his birthday yesterday, too.
I know, man. Oh, bro.
Anywho,
I am
Kobe
disgusted
Bryant.
right now.
Hey, I grew up in Philadelphia.
Okay, let's see what you got.
Kobe Bryant, extremely hardworking player, extremely talented. I've always said this. You would teach a kid to have the work ethic that Kobe Bryant has, but you would never teach a kid to play the way Kobe played.
Okay.
Because Kobe was so, like, the things Kobe did on a basketball court, it's not, like, you just have to be incredibly, insanely, like, talented. One, to even think to do stuff like that, but two, to be able to execute it. And so, like I said, through no fault of his own, it's not Kobe's fault at all that people come in LA Fitness and try to play like him. It's nothing at all. But, like, that's one of those things where it's like, going all the way back to our beginning of this, like, you got to have realistic expectations. Like, just because you see Kobe Bryant hitting the turnaround fadeaway over, 30 people, you can practice all day, doesn't mean you're going to be able to do that. Just because Steph Curry comes and shoots from half court doesn't mean you're going to be able to do that. You got to have realistic expectations. But with how accessible all these highlights are, and all you need is a basketball in the gym, you can feel like you can go in there and replicate it. It just
it distorts, what is already probably a distorted perception of your chances to get to the league. Right. Now, people throw around that number, but hey, like you said, if you see your local kid on YouTube, you're gonna go after it as well.
Or it's like, why can't that be me?
Right. Now, granted, I hope these kids aren't looking at Zion and saying I can do that.
Oh, he's dunking. I should be dunking too.
I should be basically breaking backboards.
And I think that we're like so off on this topic.
Oh, we're way off.
But we're not
well,
off.
We're bringing it full circle because
full circle
when it comes to realistic expectations, everybody should expect Duke to do very well this year.
Yeah.
I'm not gonna say RJ, Reddish, and Zion go top 3. But that is a very solid 3-headed beast. What do you think about what you've seen from them during summer so far?
So I mean, granted, they're playing Canada. Like, we could have been on one of those teams. But I was very...
Hey, you know what? Oh man, and I was gonna take us like another 10 minutes out of the way.
We'll
Canada's got this one dude that's nice. I'm gonna bring him up.
Yeah, we'll come back around to that.
Okay.
I was very I knew Cam Reddish wasn't playing, but I did not know that Trey Jones did not play. But I think that brought up an interesting new facet because they let Zion run a little point forward, and his, like I said, granted the competition is not Virginia or Clemson or whatever, North Carolina. Which I'm looking forward to that game, Nasir Little.
Yes, bro. That McDonald's All-American, or that was
yeah,
the
I
think that was the Jordan game.
That was McDonald's.
That was McDonald's. Okay, yeah, they had a good match.
Yeah, but Zion as a playmaker, I think like that's really gonna if Coach K is willing to let Zion get the rebound and run the floor, not just a monster dunk, but find Reddish and RJ on the wings, like that's gonna open up a whole new facet to his game, and I'm looking forward to seeing that.
Yeah, it's gonna. I mean, they don't have, because even Barrett just, his style of play isn't. I wouldn't say it's traditionally point guard focused either. I mean, they're gonna do a lot of transitional offense. Getting the ball out of people's hands quickly. Zion. I mean, we talked about this last week too. That dude has gotten bigger, faster,
huge.
Stronger. Like, what is he eating, bro?
I don't.
He must be eating basketball. Like, I'm not joking.
He might be.
Man, one thing I've noticed with him too is that, we talked about a lot of teams look at like his second jump ability. He's really good at grabbing his own rebound. I'm just super impressed by his like lateral mobility. He's really good at squeezing tight through lanes with a strong like hop. That hop step, bro, is powerful. And for him, again, like you said, to be able to come out of a move like that consistently with the ability to either just go up and dunk it or pass, that's gonna be so efficient for them at Duke.
Right.
Because he's gonna take a lot of focus down in the paint.
I think he was a monster on the boards in these exhibition games against the Canada. What do you think about him running a little small ball 5?
Now he's
in college.
Yeah, in college it'll work. The Draymond effect is like, I can to me that can turn any player if they're willing to play that role. Or take on that challenge of playing a small ball 5. Anybody can do it, and he's certainly got the strength. But the dude's only listed at 6'6". He's pretty small, height wise.
Yeah, he's probably got 6'6", 6'7" in shoes.
But out of that,
size,
Barrett, Reddish,
Trey Jones, and then you just
right.
Throw a dart.
You definitely can put him,
One thing that concerns me is they don't have too much shooting. I think O'Connell, who's another Georgia native, will probably slide in there, play a little 3 alongside that lineup. Who else is out there? Jordan Goldwire, another Georgia native from Norcross.
Oh, I haven't seen him before.
Yeah, Duke's just Coach K's been sneaking down here.
Really?
Down from North Carolina.
He got some
some
honeys down in the A, bro.
Right.
You gotta see every now and then.
But it's college basketball, 40-minute quarters. You expect that starting 5 or those 4 guys to play 30+ minutes a game. So,
yeah. Now, I mean, from a prospect standpoint right now, do you see Zion as potentially, number 1? I really don't see him as the best player on the team.
I like Cam Reddish personally.
Okay.
I feel like he's the most sure of what his game will be on the next level. Like with Zion, he's gonna drive to the basket, make athletic layups, but those drives won't always be there, and sometimes players running and jumping use their athleticism. You put yourself in difficult positions where
Right.
you won't always be able to repeat that. Whereas
Right.
Cam Reddish to me is the two dribble pull up kind of guy where it's like the way he's scoring is repeatable.
Mm-hmm.
So I personally like Cam Reddish. However, Zion, like I said, with Zion and the ball handling and potential playmaking, if he can show that, averages 20 points, 17 points or whatever, he's going to average a double-double.
Mm-hmm.
But those assists, if he can be somewhere around like 4 assists a game, I think that's going to like put him over the top of Reddish.
Right. That'll raise the ceiling, because right now it's looking like that's not going to be a part of his game that develops really quickly. I mean, the shot. He doesn't need it. He can shoot with a dunk, bro.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, I do like Reddish the most out of those three. Barrett, I'd even sneak Barrett ahead of Zion in terms of fit for the NBA level right now. Some teams just really need a guy like him. But yeah, they'll be exciting to watch, man. I'm definitely looking for some good matchups this year.
Definitely.
Mm-hmm.
So we went on a little tangent here, but it was all good stuff. All good stuff.
Oh
here.
yeah. Well, hey, it's surprising. That those weeks that happen between the end of the NBA season leading into college always catch me by surprise.
Yeah.
So we've been suffering a little bit over here, just playing some pickup at the street, but. Yeah, it's right around the corner.
Right around the corner.
A lot more to talk about soon.
Right. So note on your calendars, Duke plays Kentucky November 6th. So we will definitely have to do a little pre-show and a post-show after that. But definitely that's a game to look forward to. Before we wrap up this segment real quick, is there any other teams or players on your radar for the upcoming college season?
I don't know. I know, we look at guys like,
you got your UCLA's and Sharif O'Neal.
Yeah.
Talk North Carolina.
Bol.
How do you feel about Bol?
Bol. I don't know, because, again, he's one of those guys that's like at the high school level, that's not competition.
Yeah.
So, I don't know. There's another... I can't remember this dude's name going to USC.
Moses Brown. Jordan. He's a big guy, right?
Nah, he's like a wing.
A wing? While you're doing that research, my issue with Bol is he reminds me of Thon Maker, and that you can be that tall and that mobility works in high school, but in college it's going to be totally different.
Exactly. I mean, look at a guy like Giannis. Like, that's breaking the mold of... Like, when I look at a player like him run up and down a basketball court, and then I look at a guy like Bol, it's something different.
Yeah, it's completely...
So it really just shows you what now I think the expectation is that you can be a fluid 7-footer, and I don't know if he's...
They're not, Bol and Thon Maker to me don't have that at that size.
Right.
So that's what kind of concerns me about him. But, I mean, I like Oregon, and I like Peyton Pritchard, so, it's Pac-12, they got stuff to... pieces to work with.
Exactly. Yeah, there's going to be a few guys. I was looking at Kevin Porter Jr., but he's incoming for next year.
All right.
Yeah, man. The closer to the start of the season, I'll definitely have a few guys that I'm trying to take a look at, but haven't caught too much this summer. It's been a pretty busy summer so far, so we'll have to take a look at them for the next show.
Yeah. One team I want to say be out and look for, LSU. I think LSU
has Naz Reid. Yes,
he needs to come to the Hawks. I'm putting that. I'm putting that into the atmosphere right
man.
here.
He is nice.
I saw him at the McDonald's game. I was incredibly impressed.
Really
big, mobile. Handled the ball well.
Yeah.
It was very smooth.
Yeah, he's gonna be nice.
With him, Trey
Waters, yeah.
And then they've got a couple other freshmen coming in. Elliot Williams, who's just a dunk machine. But yeah, LSU, be out on the lookout for them. So for sure.
Hey, they'll have some good alumni games in the near future.
For sure. Jordan Mickey.
Yeah, right.
Jarrell Martin. If they would have stayed with Ben, that's enough. I don't want to get there.
Right, man. That would have. Ooh.
I don't want to start it.
Ooh. That's why these guys jump the gun. They miss out.
Right.
So,
We're going to wrap up this segment. When we come back, we're going to talk a little high school basketball, so stick around.